Hey guys, okay, so this is our day 3 lesson for Reading Street, talking about Charlie McButton Loses Power. We're still going to continue reading on our story as well as answering our Let's Think About It questions. We're also going to be talking about our narrative poem writing, including starting our word webs, as well as going over our vocabulary and a little bit on how to use table of contents and an index page, and our spelling word pages, okay? So it's going to be very quick. However, let's go ahead and get into our story. So let's go.
Assaulted by non-stop mechanical chatter, Charlie McButton got madder and madder. He snapped at his sis from his timeout time zone. How come you can't ever just leave me alone?
Uh-oh. So how do the words create an image here of a loud sound? Well, typically when someone gets mad, their voice gets higher, right? It gets louder. So the words got a whole lot bigger when he started yelling. When do you use a loud kind of voice, though? Like I said, usually when you're angry, your voice gets louder, so the words got bigger in the text.
Her eyes filled with tears, and she gave them a rub. She went to the bathroom and hid in the tub. Then Charlie McButton felt totally rotten and couldn't help thinking some things he'd forgotten.
Do you understand why Charlie might feel rotten here? Well, if he's feeling rotten, what might he do to fix it? Let's see if our guess or our prediction to see what he does to help fix it actually comes true.
Mainly, he thought that, for sisters that toddle, Isabel Jane was a pretty good model. She clearly adored him. She didn't have fleas. At dinner, she'd secretly eat up his peas. And sometimes, although he'd most hotly deny it, he liked to just sit there beside her in quiet, wrapped up in a blanket, watching TV, her head on his shoulder, her foot on his knee. He sat and he thought and he stared at the rain. When his time out was done, he found Isabel Jane. From the edge of the tub, she gave him a peek. So he said, "Hey, are we playing hide-and-go-seek?" She was happy at once and ran into the hall, as she loved playing hide-and-go-seek most of all. They took turns being it and counting to 10. They hid in the plants and the guinea pig pen.
So on this page, Charlie changes when he quits thinking about his problems and starts thinking about his little sister, right? He stops going from, oh, great, there's no power, I don't even have any batteries for my stuff. And now he's thinking about, you know what? I messed up. I really messed up, but I'm going to try and make it better. Then he starts playing with her. So how did this plot event change the rest of his day? How might this change the rest of his day? If he decides, you know what, forget it, I'm over the electronics, I'm going to go play with my sister. Let's find out.
And when he found Isabel Jane in her quilt, they decided a big blanket fort should be built. Then the gloom made him think about dragons and spells, so Charlie became the great wizard McSmells. And Isabel Jane, who desired a role, magically changed to his faithful old troll. Between tracking down dragons and brewing up lizards and handling the day-to-day
business of wizards, like forging his faithful old troll a new sword, Charlie McButton forgot to be bored. So at the end of the story, I can imagine the fun that Charlie and Isabel Jane were having. The last line here on page 43 says, Charlie McButton forgot to be bored. Charlie's problem was that he was upset because he couldn't do the things that he normally would like to do without power being on. His solution to that whole problem was playing with his little sister, which he discovered was actually a lot of fun. On Class Dojo, I've actually set up a project for you to do. It's a really quick, promise. Have a parent or sibling or someone in your home help you build a pillow fort. I want you to take a little bit of time outside of our computers and actually go and build a pillow fort together. Have some laughs. Take a picture. Put it on Class Dojo for me. I want to see you guys having fun without electronics for a little bit, okay? So that is your challenge and home connection for me today for that part of the story. Let's go ahead and keep reading our very, very last little bit of our stories here. The last of those 2 pages is what we just talked about, but this is the true last end of the story. It says at supper, they ate under real candlelight. The daytime had melted right into the night, and after they'd all been asleep for an hour, the world came alive with a big surge of power. Oh, it's finally back, Charlie thought with a grin. Tomorrow I'll wake up and I can plug in. But another thought hit him. He couldn't explain. I might also find dragons with Isabel Jane. So like I said, take a little bit of time today. Go build that fort. Go catch some dragonflies. Spend some time with your family away from the computer for a little bit, okay? I want to see those pictures later. So why do you think that Charlie couldn't explain why he likes to play with Isabel Jane? Well, being the big macho brother that he is, most of the time, big brothers are like, ew, little sisters, ick. But even though he may not always like to play with her, he's also a big brother. It means that he knows he needs to help take care of her and he wants to spend time with her. Okay? All right, guys, so that is the end for reading our story. I'm going to go ahead and bring myself back up. Hi. All right, so we also went on to our spelling and vocab for the day. I'll bring up those as well. Our spelling and vocab pages are actually contained in our Reader's Writer's Notebook pages. Those would have been looking something like this. Sorry, mine takes a little bit to load. Okay. So looking at our different pages, we did a little bit of research here. So referencing text that's talking about our table of contents and our index. A table of contents is basically that very front page in a book telling us where all the chapters are going to be or titles of different sections are. The indexes are at the very, very back of the book and are organized by alphabetical order, including different topics. So for example, in this book that we have, The Wonder of Electricity, again, table of contents telling us what story it is, and then the chapters. We know that chapter 1 is telling us what is electricity, and the page numbers starts on 3. Then we've got chapter 2, Ben Franklin and his famous kite, starting on page 11. Chapter 3, Inventing the Light Bulb, on page 17. The index is telling us all of these different topics are somewhere in this book, okay? So if I wanted to look up atoms, if I wanted a little more information about only atoms, I could look on page 4, and I'm going to find some information about that. Or if I wanted to learn about just Thomas Edison, not necessarily how he invented the light bulb, but about he himself, I could look on page 19 because it says Edison, his last name, then Thomas, page 19, okay? So down here, I have a couple of questions for us. It says, which chapter would you look to read about the invention of the light bulb? Well, if we look back into our table of contents here, and we're looking for light bulb. Well, what is electricity? Nah, that can't be it, because, I mean, electricity is part of it, but it's not a light bulb. Ben Franklin and his famous kite. Again, Ben Franklin wasn't around when the light bulb started. Ooh, chapter 3, Inventing the Light Bulb. That is what we're looking for. So you're going to put chapter 3 here. It's going to look much more neat than mine because I didn't get the chance to do this by hand. On number 2, it says, on which page will you look to find information about Thomas Edison? All right, so if we're looking at into our index, again, looking for that specific topic and where we would find it, we look at his last name of Edison, first name Thomas, just to make sure it is the same person, and then it tells us it's on page 19. So we'd put 19 here, page 19, there you go. All right. Number 3 says, which chapter has information about Ben Franklin? That would be over here in our table of contents again. What is electricity? Ben Franklin and his famous kite, or inventing light bulb? Ooh, the chapters is what we're looking for. So chapter 2 would be Ben Franklin and his famous kite. Okay, so that would be chapter 2. I'm going to have you guys go ahead and complete number 4 and 5. It says, on what page does chapter 2 start? Again, looking over here somewhere for our page numbers. And then number 5 says, on what page would you find information about atoms? Again, checking our index page for number 5. See where that might be at, okay? So that is our reference text, or understanding how to use the table of contents and an index. We also had our spelling pages for today. So this is our practice with our spelling words. You should have been already practicing them at least a few words a day, but this is the actual direct instruction practice for us. All right, so part 1 says classify by writing the list word that belongs in each group. So I'm going to go over the first one in each one of these selections. After that, you're going to have to fill them in. The first one says lunch, breakfast, and well, let's see which one of our spelling words matches with lunch and breakfast. Is it happen? No. Lettuce? No. Basket? No. Winter? Sister? Problems? Ooh, supper matches with that one, right? Because it's lunch, breakfast, and supper. So you'd put supper here. So put supper on there. I know my handwriting is awful because I'm trying to draw it on the computer, but write supper on number 1, and then you're going to underline it over here, not through it, under it, so you know that you've used it, okay? For the second section of this, number 7 through 9, finish each sentence using a list word that rhymes with our underlined word. The first one says, Franco got a splinter, splinter's not an underlined word, when he built the shelves last, well, it'd probably be a season, right? Because splinter, and then it's telling us when it happened. So on ours, it would be winter. It's the only season we have listed on here. So you'd put winter right there, okay? Our last section says making connections. We're going to draw a line to connect the first syllable with the second syllable to make a list word, and then write each one that you make. So hap is our first part of our syllables. So look for hap somewhere in our words. Happen. Ooh. So we have hap, and now we're looking for pen. So we'd make a little line here, and then we would write happen on this line. Okay? Now one of these has more than one second syllable that would make a word, but again, we're looking for just our spelling word that it can make. Okay? If you have any questions, let me know on that one. And then finally, we also had our, I think I have the wrong page here. Do I have the right one? Hang on just a second. Yeah, sorry, I have the wrong page. Okay, so then we also had our, what would be the word map. Okay, I'm going to grab that as well for us. So that should be underneath our Reader's Writer's Notebook as well. Oops, sorry. A lot of tabs, not enough space. All right. So let's see. Here we go. So the word map in here, right? We're going to be talking about several different things, particularly talking about the pieces that we used on our chart the other day. So this one, and again, pause my video so that way you can see it and copy it down. All right, so we're actually going to add each one of these column heads to the outside 4 circles, okay? because we're going to fill those from here onto the circles. By the end of the whole thing, you should have something that looks like this. Okay? You're going to have something that looks like this. You're going to be filling in all of the different pieces and parts that go into our circles. And yes, I will have a picture that looks a little bigger for you. Let me stop my share for just a few seconds. All right, so this is what you are ultimately going to have. Again, pause my video so you can copy it down. We have the character, plot, theme, and rhyming words on the outside circles. Those were all made from the other day. The center is what we filled in today. It should be a topic. So we're deciding on what it is that we're going to be writing about overall. All right? So we chose to have a silly dog saved Simmons, the sister, on Saturday. Okay? That's what we're going to be using to write our narrative poems over the next couple of days. All right? So make sure you have that finished as well. All right, guys, I know that was a lot of stuff, very short period of time. If you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of me. Again, Class Dojo, call, text, email, any of those, I can get back to you as soon as possible. If you have any more questions, let me know. Bye, guys.